Just kind of recap a couple of quick housekeeping issues here just as we get going. We are recording this session so that we can share this webinar with you again following the presentation. You can go back and review all those great tips we're going to hear today. Again, on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a chat window. We'll be monitoring that chat and making sure we track all those great questions that we hope you submit there. Bria and Tamerah are fantastic at what they do, and we want to make sure we pick their brains for any great tips that they have to share with us. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump on in here. Again, welcome to today's webinar. This is the third installment of our June webinar series, and the topic today is Message Received: How to Ensure You're Making the Connection at Home. We are joined today by Tamerah Ringo, who's the Director of Communications and Public Relations at Coppell ISD, and Bria Jones, the Webmaster at Coppell ISD. Tamerah and Bria have been using Blackboard for the last couple of years now, and in particular, most recently have done some phenomenal work launching a mobile app in their community as an additional way of reaching out and engaging the community and sharing valuable information with them. So we're going to hear a little bit about their experience today and some of the things that they've learned, some of the really fantastic ways that they have learned to engage their community and really transform the way that communications helping create more positive student outcomes in Coppell ISD. So with that, Tamerah and Bria, I'm going to turn the time over to you and let you work your magic.
Thank you, Stephen. It's our pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us, and welcome to everyone who's joined us on this webinar. I just wanted to first get you up to speed. If you're not familiar with the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, specifically Coppell ISD, then in the city of Coppell, we are located a little to the north and east of the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. We're a suburban school district. The population of the community is sitting right at about 40,000. The population in our school district, the city's boundaries encompass a little over 14 miles. The boundary for the ISD in the state of Texas, it overlaps with city boundaries, outlying city boundaries. So our school district boundaries are a little over 22 square miles. And so we reach down into the city of Irving to the south. We go north and cross the Louisville, cross a little bit into the Louisville area and a little bit to the east into Carrollton Farmers Branch. So there is a little bit of an overlap there, but that explains, where the lines were drawn had to do with cattle crossings. Don't get me started. Anyway, and where water sources were back in the day. Our demographics are very interesting. We're a very diverse school district. I've been in the district for 17 years, and it's changed dramatically since I first came to the district. Our white Anglo population right now is, back in 1994-95, was at about 82%, as you'll see there, and is now at about 43.9%. Probably this year will even out with our Asian student population. It's sitting about 1.5% distance apart as it is. So we're thinking that's going to get even more leveled out as we move into next school year. Our African American population has stayed pretty much the same over that span of 10 years or so. Started in 94 at 3.0 and today is at 4.6. Hispanic population has doubled. From 94 it was 6.0, and then of course it's a little over 12% today. And then you can see economically disadvantaged is about 3 times what it started to be in 1994. It's now a little over 10%, and that continues to climb every year. So it's a changing and growing diverse population of students, and we just try to do our best to stay ahead of the curve. We're a high-performing school district. highly educated parent population, very involved. Sometimes we affectionately refer to them as helicopter parents. Very involved community in our schools, and we're very appreciative of that, actually. So I'd much rather have it that way than not. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the district. And I guess about, I don't know, Bria, it's been probably about 5 years ago, we started looking at the possibility of adding a mobile app to our list of mediums, communication mediums that we were going to be using. And when we looked at that as a way to, the numbers were indicating to us that that's a way to reach our parents where they were. Mobile devices were growing in popularity, and certainly our community was at the forefront of that. And so it looks like those numbers have really sort of proven out to be the case. It's continued to, mobile app use has continued to grow, and you'll see, of course, email is still at 63%, but this is some survey information that Blackboard had provided us with. There are phone calls at 12, text messaging 8, social media down at 2, the school website, mobile app notifications at 1%. So that's just a variety of the different ways that parents prefer to be communicated with by the school districts. And that's really the reason why we wanted to do that, is because we were also at a point where in our district we had been BYOD, Bring Your Own Device districts for expanding technology, and we were going one-to-one. So we really wanted to take a look at, we knew our social media use was increasing, and we really wanted to meet our parents where they were. So that decision was pretty easy. We had experimented with, had piloted ParentLink for emergency messaging for a couple of years, and it was very successful. And so we started first to talk to them about some of the resources that they had available and the directions they were going to be going. And we actually changed from the company we were working with and went with ParentLink because the company we were with did not have a mobile app at that time. They have since gotten a mobile app, but they didn't at the time that we were wanting to have one developed for our district. So we had a bond election coming up, which thank goodness we passed. There were just some things that were coming down the pipe that we knew we needed to be able to have the ability to get out in front of our parents pretty quickly. So fall, about 3 years ago, we started working with ParentLink, of course now Blackboard, and did a rollout in the spring during Texas Public Schools Week. We did the big our mobile app campaign launch, and so we'll have some numbers that we can talk to you later about in terms of our usage. But we've been very happy with the response so far, and hope parents it'll just continue to increase.
Yeah, so when we started looking at the mobile app, we started to ask ourselves, what value is this going to bring to parents? And at that time, a lot of the mobile apps available on the market were basically apps that had links out to websites that weren't mobile friendly. And so you would get parents to download an app and link out to go to a place that they couldn't really do anything on their phone or on their iPad or or mobile device. And so we wanted to make sure that we didn't head down that path, that we really brought value to our parents. And so we asked ourselves, what do parents want the most in terms of on-the-go or information that they care about the most? And what we found was they wanted grades. And we had already had our grades posted online through an online management system that parents could log into a desktop computer and they could access their child's grades. We wanted to be able to integrate that system into a mobile app so parents could see grades for assignments and also just their average grades through the mobile app. And that's when the competitors narrowed down to very few that were able to actually provide that that type of integration. And that's one of the reasons why we went with ParentLink, now Blackboard, for our mobile app. We wanted to make sure that that the things that they did within our mobile device were things that were made to view on a mobile view and not something that would make people frustrated. And so we knew grades were important. We knew that people would want calendars. Notifications was kind of a big thing. Lunch menus and lunch count balances was way up there in terms of things that parents want on the go. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on one second.
Stephen, do you want us to give some time for questions along the way, or should we just hold those till the end?
You know what? Let's hold those questions for the end, and then we've got some time carved out at the end to make sure we address all of those questions.
Okay, perfect.
So you can kind of see a picture of our mobile app. One of the things we did was customize our icons. So that's one of the neat features about the Blackboard app, is that you can make your own icons, and you are more than welcome to download our app and take a look at it. Most of the great features about the app are within a login screen, so you have to log in to see all the student data and things associated with students, so sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see that, but we have some tutorials and things on our website that show some of those features if anybody's interested in taking a look at that. Oh, and one of the things that I loved when we were looking at our app was, I did some research and they said eBay asked, can you do it at a red light? Well, of course, we don't want to promote using your phone while in the car. That's not a good thing. But the idea of something that people use apps for things that are done very quickly and that they can glance at and then get out of. And so that's something we really took into consideration when we were deciding what kinds of things we would want in our app. It would be things that parents could do very, very quickly within a minute or two. So one of the things that, so we decided on ParentLink for our mobile app. Well, ParentLink had a suite of other features that we decided to use along with the mobile app. And that was starting some automated calls. We started doing automated attendance calls for unexcused absences. That was something that we had never done before. We weren't even really doing manual calls or anything. We were kind of handling that only when there was an issue, when people accumulated a lot of unexcused absences. Library balances if they had any library fees, and then if they had negative lunch account balances. And those have all been positive communications in terms of keeping parents in the loop about those kinds of pieces. We did learn some lessons in that also that we'll share with everyone. And a lot of it for us was with the attendance, that we on the back end didn't necessarily have all of our policies and practices set up in place to accommodate a system that's, you know, based on certain triggers. And so, for example, we would have teachers that didn't do a great job of taking attendance accurately or taking attendance in a timely manner. And so, you know, parents started getting these calls that were inaccurate and started causing some issues and putting a lot of emphasis on the campuses to fix those type of issues. It would have been nice for us to maybe have thought about that a little bit more in advance and try to work on those issues before we had started the calls. That was kind of a lesson learned. But in the end, it was a positive thing because it put more onus on the teachers of being a lot more accurate with their attendance. So,
and just so you know, in the state of Texas, our attendance is tied to our funding from the state. So that's a pretty big deal, and that we really needed to keep better tabs of and better records on. So that we are a Chapter 41 district, which means There are Chapter 41 and Chapter 42 districts in the state of Texas. Chapter 41s are considered property wealthy. Chapter 42s are considered property poor. So in order to achieve equity, our legislators came up with a system, years back, so that the property wealthy districts would send a portion of their monies to the property poor districts. It was known as Robin Hood. It still is today. We are currently about 30% of what we receive from the state for funding is sent back to the state. That's about $20 million for this last year is what we sent back to the state of Texas to disperse to property poor school districts. So attendance is very important. Since we give some of those dollars back, we don't want to lose any that we don't have to. Okay, I'll give it back to Bria.
So then the other piece that put in place is we had a system for emergency notifications, but we didn't really have a system where principals were sending out messages to their parents or to their students. And so Blackboard offered a platform that we allowed our principals to have and train them on and ask them, we would like you to send out 2 messages, at minimum 2 messages per semester to your parents, whether it be a newsletter or giving them information about what's been going on for that past year, maybe something about curriculum. We just want you to have communication. And our principals were having communication, they weren't all using the same kinds of methods, and it was definitely some were doing more in one place and less in others. And so this was to kind of put a minimum expectation in terms of that messaging. It was really interesting to find we had put that minimum of 2 messages. As soon as we trained the principals, a majority of our campuses started using them at least on a monthly basis, if not a weekly basis. I'm pretty sure now that we've had it for a couple years, almost all the campuses tend to send something out. A lot of times it's kind of newsletter type of communications, email communication, reminders, things like that through our system on a weekly basis. So we've seen a really great usage of it, and they really like the ease of use, and they think that it's pretty great. So that's worked really, really, really well for us.
Well, and our parents tell us it's worked well. So, it's one thing when you think you're doing it correctly. It's another thing when the person that it's intended for on the other end are the ones that come back and say, oh my gosh, I had no idea, thanks so much for the reminder. I love that, that I found out about that international night out from a reminder I got from, from the principal last week. So.
And I will say, in this community, most of the usage we have is through their email communication, and we kind of limit the phone communication to some of our automated calls, and then important events, we have what we call like a curriculum night, which would be like a back-to-school night. A lot of times we ask the principals to make a personal phone call inviting people to 1 or 2 big events on their campus, but they don't do a lot of the personal phone calls. And I think that's very much a community thing. You need to kind of find out what your community responds to, because I know other districts whose phone calls are very, very effective. So.
In ours, we just really wanted to make sure that people started to understand the different, that they weren't just going to get calls about emergencies, or they weren't going to just get automated attendance calls, that they were going to get some messages, but if we were doing so many of those, then it would, where's that threshold? So we really kind of had to delineate the difference between those. And so far for us, it's worked out really well.
So our big thing was we put together this mobile app, and so we needed to get the word out and and have people download the app and encourage them to start getting information this way. And so I'm going to let Tamerah kind of talk about all the different things that we did for our mobile app campaign.
Well, the app campaign, as I mentioned earlier, was launched during Texas Public Schools Week, which for us is usually celebrated in our district the first week of March, right before we take spring break. And that's really big on every campus. There are lots of events happening on those individual campuses from K-12. And during Texas Public School Week, the elementaries have their night, the middle schools have their night, and the high schools both have their nights as well, so that if you've got parents with kiddos at all three levels, then that gives them an opportunity to visit, each one of their children's campuses. So we knew that was going to be a huge draw for our parents and a really good place to make a launch. And so we did. We distributed little tchotchke items. We gave little plug-in sort of techie gadgets at the front door to parents coming in for that night. Of course, we advertised it with the colors of the signs all over town, in the parent loops as you drive onto the campuses. That first slide shows you that first little photograph there in the car shows you the little phone charger that we gave out. And then, of course, you can see a demonstration of what the site actually looks like. We had posters done, flyers done, banners done, so there were several different print pieces that we had made up. And then
I'm going to quickly say something just because it was an interesting thing among this campaign. So when it comes to encouraging use of a mobile device, some of our things that we do in this community that are very effective is yard signs and signs in our parent loops at schools. And one of the things that we thought about was encouraging people to use a mobile device in an area that we tell parents we don't want their phones out. So, encouraging them for mobile use in a parent loop where we ask, actually it's by law that they're not on their phones. And so just a little something that really made us think about where and how, we're communicating and being really careful about that message of asking them to do something on their phone and in the car. So,
because the tagline at the end was download the CISD app today. So here you are driving through the parent loop, and then the very last sign you see, because it's done, in colors and in pieces until you get up to the ask at the end. So we realized that, had we already ordered signs when we realized, or were we putting them out in the loop and we're like, hey, wait a second, somebody could get a $200 fine.
Yeah. For
being on their phone and downloading that app while they're sitting here in the parent list because they're on a campus. Anyway, guys, just something to think through. That just happened to come up during the campaign, and nobody got any fines that we're aware of. And we did talk about that in our weekly newsletter, our informed newsletter that we send out on Fridays, to let people know it was going to be coming, and to read it and do it after they get out of that cell phone zone at the campus. So anyway, thanks for adding that. But yeah, we did newsletters. We put a lot of things in the newspapers. We actually we kept it going. So that was in March, and then in August we did convocation. Actually we went to the ballpark in May, and we had it announced on the Trinitron at the Texas Rangers ball field, and the announcement made. So we did it in our script there. We included it during convocation in August, so it was rolled out to all of our administrators. That's the only time, or our teaching staff and administrators, that's the only time our entire district can come together is in August, when we kind of do our big send-off to kick off the school year in August. So we did that at convocation. Of course, we used social media to talk about it. We, as I mentioned, we did another promotional item that we included was the pen with the touch tip on it. And I talked about the phone chargers. There was an event that the Education Foundation hosted. I forgot this when it fell between the ballpark and the convocation event, and that was a fun run. And our superintendent stood at the end of the line and handed out growl towels that had the slogan, "In Touch Informed Inspired, download the CISD app today," on those growl towels. And then we went right into football season. We had 2 commercials. We did, we did 3 or 4 different PSAs that we used in our stadium for, we did it during homecoming at the football game. And then after homecoming we did it, that was sort of our big football game to announce it to, because we knew we were going to have 10,000 in our stadium. And you can You want to run through that real quick?
We're going to play. It's really short, but it's kind of fun. I mean, one of the things is we're trying to build a lot of positive energy, and so we were trying to do some really fun, playful things with it. So
it's just a takeoff on the 360.
You should see a video up on your screen. I'm going to just hit play on this, and you're welcome to hit play locally, but just for the people, those of us that can do that, so we can kind of get an idea of what it sounds like.
Is it better to be in touch with someone or not in touch?
In touch. Because if you're like in touch, you know like everything that's going on, and you'll be like, oh sure, I'm your friend, and you'll be like, this is great, let's talk to them.
Being in touch is better. Download the Coppell ISP app today.
So
Thanks
yeah,
for sharing that video.
Sure. And there were, like I said, that's one. We did a series of, I think there were 3 or 4 of those, and they're still on our website. We put those on YouTube so you can play the other ones when you have some spare time and want to be entertained. They're kind of interesting. So, and let's see, where do we go from there, Bria? Ground towels, new hire orientations, committee and public meetings. I mean, anytime we had where 2 or more were gathered was sort of our slogan. We talked about the mobile app campaign. This year we're going to be adding it on the all of our district vehicles, which there's about 34. Those will go on the back tailgate for all of our vehicles in the district. We're also adding those to our letterhead, our district letterhead, and our email signatures. Mine already has that, so does Bria's, I think, in our department, but not, we're going to go district-wide with those in the fall. So.
Yeah, so the promotional side, there was kind of 2 different sides to it. There was the get people excited wanting to download the mobile app side, but then there was also the reality. You can see a little quote on the slide. Just because they have a smartphone doesn't mean they know what an app is or how to download it. And that was something that we realized and anticipated, knowing that there was going to be an education component to this, that even though a lot of people utilize smartphones, they're not super savvy at them either sometimes. And so we made sure that our staff, especially our front office staff, kind of knew how to use the app and helped people with it. We made tutorials, we made video tutorials as well as written instructions, did FAQs, sent out those kinds of things. People could call me and I could help them troubleshoot anything that they needed, because there was a little bit of hand-holding with some of our population in terms of getting used to this idea of downloading an app. So.
Okay, Bria, you want to talk a little bit about, I know that Stephen introduced Bria as our webmaster, and she certainly is, but she's also our social media guru, so I'll let her kind of talk to you a little bit about that and sociability.
So about, we get a mobile app, and about that same time, we're also really ramping up our social media in the district in terms of using it as a communication tool. Not only can you feed social media information into the app, but just using social media on its own. And again, as Tamerah had said, this was also a time in our district where we were starting to go one-to-one with devices. And so the district was using social media as well as our teachers and other staff members to not only communicate announcements and interesting information, but especially using Twitter in the classroom as an educational tool. And so that was kind of a big leap in our community in terms of really starting to ramp up this social media. It generated a lot of conversations among parents about if they like it or not. But for a while, social media was completely open in the district, and we were utilizing that. Because of that, we also needed a way to kind of manage the conversations that were going on in social media, and so that's kind of where sociability plays a piece. We started using sociability last year, being able to just monitor some of our people that talk about our district a lot and monitor our own campus kind of social media communications. And you know, it's been good. It's, you know, social media has lots of challenges to it, making sure that we're using it in an age-appropriate way. We have a lot of discussions. We have some committees going on with some parents about distractibility in the classroom using social media. Is that really the best thing for kids to have in their hands while they're in the classroom? And talking to parents about some of the neat educational sides that social media can bring in terms of conversation and collaboration, as well as teaching, giving kids the time to practice good time management skills, how to keep yourself from being distracted. Even as adults, sometimes we have to practice that and have to learn different strategies on how to manage distractibility and things going on, you know, at the same time. And so those are all things that we were talking with parents and working with students on in the classroom. And so those conversations are still continuing. We're still working on that. We actually have made some changes to our social media policy based on some of these committees. We've updated our social media policy. And you can find that on our website if you're curious at all about what kind of social media policy that, you know, that we have. That's updated on our website. We also put together some more parent education opportunities to help with social media and just technology in general. This all kind of flows together. We did a thing called Parent University 2.0 where we provided educational, we brought in speakers that came and talked to parents about things. A lot of it had to do with technology. Some of it was about other kinds of parenting topics, whether it was parenting strategies or bringing in the DEA to talk about drug awareness. We also had a big Saturday event where parents could come in and they could learn about certain topics. Again, same parenting topics, whether it was love and logic, or just learning about technology in the classroom and different devices and learning about different apps and things like that. And then we also have webinars and other resources posted on our website for parent education. And so that's kind of a big focus for us right now is we have a lot of really great tools, and our campuses are pretty close to being one-to-one, and so now we're really ramping up that parent education side. Is there anything you want to add to that, Tamerah?
Our one-to-one started out at New Tech High at Coppell in 2011, and then we expanded it to Coppell High School, which is the larger, more traditional high school, and that was not this past school year, but the year before. We went one-to-one there. That's 3,200 students on that campus, plus staff. And then we also did a pilot of about 80 students in a blended learning environment on one of our middle school campuses. So the next step was to expand that to all 3 middle schools, which we did this fall by grade level. And then we added, we had a couple of pilots at 4th and 5th going on in the fall, and then by the spring, almost all of our elementary campuses, 4th and 5th graders had it. And we'll eventually take it down to kindergarten, but that's where we are at this point.
And right now our one-to-one is mostly iPads, in case anybody was wondering. So we, you know, we use the Blackboard suite for a lot of our communications, but like any good communication strategy, there's a lot of other things involved in it also. And so we just wanted to list a couple other things that we do that we find really successful in this district to help create community, help develop good community leadership, and help spread our message. Do you want to talk about a couple of those?
So we'll just kind of quickly go down the list here. Parent University, Bria's kind of already talked to you a little bit about that. That's ongoing all during the course of the year with guest speakers, usually a couple of big names in the fall, a couple in the spring, but we also do a Saturday, half-day Saturday, where we also bring guest speakers in to address a variety of different topics that our parents have told us that they were interested in. Our Key Communicator Breakfast is a breakfast that our superintendent hosts, one in the fall, one in the spring, and that's in the fall to talk about where we are, what we're planning on doing for the year, and then in the spring with leadership in the community. So if you've served on one of our major district committees, such as a bond committee or a strategic planning team, or if you've served on a facility long-term planning committee, if you've participated in iLead, any of those if you're PTO president board, if you're on that board, if you're the president of one of our booster organizations, if you're hold a leadership position at with any of our civic organizations in the community, or you hold a leadership position with our city partners, and elected officials are welcome. That is who is comprised, that's our key communicator group, is comprised of those folks. So we do a breakfast, give them an update in the fall, and then in the spring, where we are at this point, and what we have planned, sort of a year-end wrap-up, and then sort of what we have planned to over the summertime and to launch in the fall again. And any other major topics, if it's a legislative session, we're probably going to talk about that a little bit. So it just kind of depends if we're in a bond season where we know we're going to have a bond campaign. That may be one of the big topics that we talk about. So halftime with the soup, that's kind of a fun thing that we do. I came up with that idea when we had my previous superintendent was here 12 years ago to introduce him in a less formal setting to the community and to folks in those leadership positions. We host 5 home football games a year, and this is an opportunity to invite them up. We get barbecue sponsored we have a suite on the home side, and it'll hold about 30, 40 people in there, and so we take a different group or a couple of different groups at each one of those home football games, and we invite them to come up and have snacks, visit with the superintendent, and watch the halftime show with him in the box. So that's what that is. iLead training we came up with about 4 years ago. We were in a position where we started looking around the room at our board members, and we knew we were going to be having several of those folks roll off. We were going to need to be getting some new leadership in those positions. And so this was really born from thinking through, if people want to know more than just surface area, if they really want to know the business of running a school district, we need to be offering, more time. And so we kind of took that on as a class. It's adult leadership class. And it's done sort of, our community does a similar training for potential committee leaders, for potential city council members or people that might want to run for city council. So this is our answer on the school district side to that, and we work with the city to alternate years so that we're not competing for the same folks, since we are kind of a small community on the same years. But that's to help us build some capacity, some leadership capacity from within our community. And then, of course, publicity training, we started those in the fall. I guess Bria and I started doing those a few years ago. We added booster clubs over time. So any of the publicity folks from our different booster club organizations are invited to attend. And we usually have about 25 people or so that come to that. We give them a lot of background information from our perspective as a communications department first, feed them some lunch. It's a working lunch. And then we invite a panel of media experts to come in, usually from the local papers. We've got about 3 different education reporters that serve our community. And we've got some other broadcast media people that live out here, so we'll invite them to come. So it just varies. Usually have about 3 people sitting on that panel that can speak to those publicity folks firsthand about what it is that they're looking for, what makes a good story, that sort of thing. We can tell them till we're blue in the face, but when you hear it from a professional that does that every day for a living, and it takes the onus off of us. So that helps. And it also gives them a feel for what it is that we do. We do a weekly e-newsletter that's called Informed, which is a takeoff of our mobile app campaign. And we live stream our board meetings. We just live streamed our first graduation this year. I know a lot of folks have been doing that for some time. We are just now figuring out how to do that and not have to, we didn't want to have to charge people to see that. So we had to, we had to work with the university, and they worked real closely with our high school administrative staff to come up with a way to make that as cost effective as they could. We've seen lots more video communication and a lot less print, although we do like to have some key pieces that we can put into people's hands. So there are some things that we've kept and some things that we've added to that. We're also now doing a board brief, which I do once a week, once a month after our regularly scheduled board meetings. It's just more of an executive kind of a summary of what went on at the meeting. So quick at a glance. If you want more detail, then you can watch it streamed on the website.
So, of course, we continue to try to improve our communications, and Tamerah and I were talking before this presentation about the kinds of things that we find are the challenges and discussions that we've been having recently. And one thing that we've found, we've just finished, recently done our strategic plan. We've done some communication committees, and one thing we keep hearing from our community is about wanting two-way dialogue, especially at the campus level. And so that is a very interesting comment, and trying to execute that and find out ways that is not burdensome to the campuses, but also find out ways of the parents who feel like they're not having that dialogue, because there's a section of our community that feels very open and knows our staff very well and feels very open to talking with them. But our community is growing, and there's newer families here that don't know our staff as well and maybe don't feel like they can have as open a communication and dialogue, so finding some ways to be able to do that. And so right now we're really kind of brainstorming about what are the best solutions for that. Parents are asking, there's so much information out there, and so sometimes I think they miss the things that are really relevant to them because it's buried amongst other kinds of information. And so one of our challenges is, how do you provide the information that is relevant to them, and make sure that they're getting that information and not missing the things that they need, and that being able to give focused communication is always a challenge. And so that's things that we continuously talk about. And one of the things that we're balancing and with all this technology is safety and security, privacy kinds of issues, making sure that things are, appropriate for different ages, all of that, and also talking about transparency and making sure that the things that we are doing is very open. So there's a dichotomy between the transparency and the safety and privacy. And so that's a big challenge for us, and those are kinds of conversations that we're continuously have about things that we're doing, and then also just keeping up with how quickly things are changing. As we all know, technology changes so quickly, and so we're having these different pockets of users, people that are some of our younger parents that are pretty savvy in terms of technology, our kiddos who are very, very savvy, and then some other pockets of parents and other stakeholders that might not be as fluid with some of the quickly changing technologies, and making sure we're meeting the needs of all of those various audiences. So.
Stephen, how are we doing on time?
I think we're doing great. We've got just a few minutes here at the end, and before we get to the Q&A period, I wanted to thank you so much for sharing all these great ideas with us. We do have some great questions in the chat that I want to make sure we get to, but first, just a quick overview of some of the things that Blackboard does. Coppell has really set the bar high for not just for districts, but for companies like Blackboard, to provide really world-class services to meet sort of this expanding universe of communication and engagement activities that you're involved in. To that end, Blackboard is very proud to offer what we think is really the best in breed of solutions that span really that entire breadth of different types of activities that you're involved in, including websites. In fact, we just recently were joined by SchoolWires, who's a leading provider of websites, content management systems, and design services, really focused on helping you provide a high quality and easy to use, easy to maintain web presence. Notification tools for all those what we would call traditional notification purposes, things like phone calls, including automated phone calls, email messaging, text and SMS messaging, and so on. We also provide world-class mobile apps. These are apps that are branded for your district and really customizable, as Bria and Tamerah talked about, very customizable for your community and your specific needs. And so we're excited to be able to offer that. And then finally, for social media tools, we offer a tool which, Bria mentioned, Sociability, which is really the first K-12 specific social media management tool. And it's designed to help you do everything from getting started to monitoring your conversations to really reaching that top level, which is utilizing social media as a communication tool. And so we're excited to offer those, and if you're interested in any of those, we'd be more than happy to answer any of those questions or have someone reach out to you and walk you through some of those specific tools that we offer. Let's jump into questions. I know we've got just a few minutes here at the end. We had a few questions come through chat. Some of these we've answered as we've gone, but I want to make sure that we cover these as a group. From Rena Anderson, she asked, how did you pay for the phone chargers? Were those public funds? We've had a couple of questions about funding. Further down here, Bria and Tamerah, can you take just a minute and talk to us about how you were able to budget that and designate funds to pay for some of those, what are kind of really neat promotional ideas and promotional tools?
Yeah, happy to. We have a budget that covers those kinds of items, and we've tried to pick things that were techie and that were things that they would actually use over and over again, because we wanted them to see that, that 7 or more repetitions sort of was coming through, and we really wanted them to be able to make use of what we were giving them. So those were not a sponsored item. We didn't have enough room on a little charger. We wanted all that space for our school district. So all those things really that we put together, the print pieces and both of the items that we gave out during Texas Public School Week, were all paid for out of our budget. So I don't have a really large budget, but for this campaign, we felt like the return on our investment was going to be such that we knew we actually did our whole entire campaign under $15,000.
Fantastic. Question from Georgia.
Stephen, I'm sorry, we're 3 years into this, and I still go to the campuses. They still have their banners up for mobile app. They still have their posters up. We had gotten way more mileage than we thought we ever would out of that. So it was definitely worth.
You were able to get more than just that initial push out of that. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
A related question comes into us from Georgia Duran. What's the top way that you promoted your app? She says that most of their users right now of their app are staff members. How are you able to, what was the most effective promotion, and how are you able to really get parents and students using the app?
Bria, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I would say probably twofold. One, making a big event out of it was a really big push. It got a lot of our downloads, and so yeah, kind of that initial buzz. I think the other piece that helped along the way was that every time a parent was asking about grades or a secretary or, we were talking about committee meetings and stuff, just asking before that meeting started, does everyone have the mobile app? And trying to make sure that people throughout the district were always asking parents and always, if a new family came in, that was one of the things that they reminded them to do, download the app. And attaching it to something that brought value. So saying, hey, do you like to monitor your kids' grades? Well, did you know you can do it on the mobile app? Did you know that your lunch account balance and your lunch menus are on the mobile app? So if they would call and say, hey, where are those lunch menus on the website? Our secretary might go, well, you can get them on the app. So that, those pieces were good. With the one-to-one devices, we asked our technology department to push it out onto every device that we had so that our students would also be users of our app, which they are. They like to check their grades as much as their parents do, especially at that secondary level. And so that was kind of another big piece. And I think the other good reminder is that you have to always keep pushing the app. So we did our Texas Public Schools Week as a big event, and then there'll be little things here and there that we'll communicate. And then every year we kind of pick a new big thing to really do a little big splash about, once or twice a year. Whether it's something at the ballpark or, things like that, so that we're always just putting stuff on social media and the website just randomly. So you catch those 1 or 2 or 3 users here and there that haven't picked it up, and then we'll do a big kind of push again and get a bunch of users, and then we'll just have a few trickle in, and that seems to be how our, downloads have gone.
Fantastic. A couple of quick questions here. One is in terms of your e-newsletter, and I'll try and kind of combine a couple questions here. Is that e-newsletter, is that targeted at which audience? And then also, how have you really engaged them in terms of subscription? Is it an opt-in or an opt-out type of model?
Actually, they have to opt out. We put everybody that's in our database. We have, around 18,000 was our list. 18,000 was our subscriber list this last school year. I don't know what it'll be. I'm guessing it'll be a little bit more. We're gaining about 250 students a year. So, but no, we put everybody in that's in that database. If they don't want to get those reminders, then they have to opt out. One more thing we didn't mention was flyer communication. Being able to do that, we no longer do paper. We use PeachJar for flyer distribution. I forgot to put that on my list. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, so the parents have to opt out, but we also open it up to our community and anybody else, and that's more of a opt-in subscription kind of thing. They can go on our website and sign up to receive it. The other thing that I think is interesting is we don't delineate them opting out of just our district newsletter. So if they choose to opt out, they're choosing to opt out of all campus and district communication. Which I think benefits us for the district newsletter because most people want their campus communication. And so in order to receive the campus communication, you're also getting the district communication.
Okay, great. One last question here I want to make sure we touch on. Did you have any challenges working with IT? I know you stated one of the things that the parents in your community wanted most were things like grades and academic information. Did you run into any challenges working with IT to make that data interchange work and to provide that kind of access?
Okay, so here's what I did. When I finally decided on what I thought would be the best solution, but I was open to looking at everything that was out there. We really hadn't made our mind up. We thought we had some that we were going to like, but we were going to throw all of our needs up on a board and just make sort of a rubric and check which ones each one of those vendors could fulfill and go from there. So what I did was approach the technology department and I said, I don't care. I don't have to be the hero here. My goal is to get information to parents. So if you can help me with this and at least the first year out, split the cost with me 50-50 out of your department, 50 out of my, 50% of the cost out of mine, and do this as a partnership. You can be the hero. I'll make you the hero. I don't have to have ownership of that. I just want to get the job done. So that whole approach, I think, kind of set us up for tremendous success. We've had nothing but great cooperation and a great partnership, great collaboration with our technology department. Were there some kinks along the way and sort of technical things that we had to work through? Yes, but it wasn't because of any sort of inability to work together as a team and as a partnership with that particular department. They have to make it work on the back end, and make it look pretty and all that kind of stuff. We knew that we needed the functionality to be there, but what we really wanted to be able to do was to hit our parents, meet them where they were. That was the ultimate goal, with the things that they wanted to know, the things that they would use the most. That's the value add piece that Bria was talking about.
And in terms of the integration, we definitely hit some challenges in terms of for those grades for the SIS part of the system. We use a system that not a lot of people utilize, and so and we have some very interesting calculations in ways that our system calculates average grades that caused us a lot of issues. But I will say that the thing that impressed me the most was, at that time it was ParentLink, but their commitment to making it right. And so we did have some hiccups along the way in terms of making those average grades, but they put the resources there knowing that that's what they promised, and we did a lot of problem solving. They actually ended up sending somebody out for a couple days trying to work on some of the, and some of those issues. And so the customer service side of the company, we've had a great experience with, and we've really been able to work through whatever challenges we have to get the product that we were expecting. So.
Well, thank you so much. That's good to hear on our side too. I know we're at the top of the hour, so we want to make sure we are respectful of people's time. Bria and Tamerah, thank you so much for shuffling things on your calendar and making some time to share this with us. This has been fantastic, and I know we will all walk away with a lot of great ideas. Again, thank you all for participating. We will be sending out an email with a link to this recording, so if you want to come back and watch this again or dig through and find that one idea that really caught your eye. We really appreciate everyone for attending. Again, Bria and Tamerah, fantastic. Great message. You guys are doing wonderful things, and thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, everybody.